terrible look because I was like, what are you making me do? Because I felt it was like, I felt like my stomach was like rock solid. And she would like, she, of course talked me through it. But then feeling how it softened afterwards, it was honestly like nothing I mean, I had never experienced that before, but I remember that initial, like, what do you want me to do? This isn't fun. But yeah, it's pretty awesome to see the transformation.
So
Yeah.
time to work through it, and
Yeah.
feeling that it's normal. Do some of the modifications that I mentioned in the video, mostly laying on your side or going to the wall, and just giving your body that time to welcome the ball in and accept it, because it could take a week, it could take just a couple days, something like that. So
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
So just briefly going into the comment that Kaylee had this week, which was awesome, an awesome success about having some nerve pain relieved on the Coregeous ball that she had for a really long time. And this is going to be week 6 content where we kind of dive into how organs and pelvic floor play into pain that you don't really think of, like knee pain. So it was really cool to hear about that, Kaylee. And it's one of those things where why we're so passionate about sharing this is we're trying to expand your thoughts on pain and where it could be coming from and how you can help it. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think one of the, we get so focused on like my pain is in my left knee, so that has to be where it's coming from. And then oftentimes what happens is we end up chasing pain. And so we just chase the pain all around our body, trying to make that particular part that's feeling it feel better. And that's just kind of the dangerous cycle that we get into instead of getting to the root cause. And the root problem is we can't chase pain. Pain is a good indicator of something that maybe needs attention. It's not that you just like disregard the pain, but if all you're doing is chasing the pain, you're going to miss something. Or you could get like the temporary relief, but then, whatever it is comes back a month down the road, and then you are constantly battling it.
Yes.
Yeah.
A whole body approach is what we're going for. So
yeah,
really awesome. So part of this week's content was getting to know the abdominal massage, starting to do some of the pelvic position and that kind of thing. And so what we thought would be kind of fun to share here too is this idea of test, retest. So a lot of times it's a nice thing to do when you're doing, especially when you're doing self-care stuff, because you start to learn what works for you and what doesn't for that day. It could be different on another day. So it's nice to have that starting point, do the mobility, massage, whatever, and then retest that starting point. So we thought it would be really cool to take Ashley's homework as a test. So you do that first, then you can roll on the Coregeous ball 2-3 minutes, something like that, and then go back to the pelvic floor, pelvic position homework, and see if you can feel a difference. And that's when you'll really start to literally feel the difference and feel that it's helping.
Yeah, just kind of notice everything from how your pelvis feels lying on the floor, how the back of your rib cage feels lying on the floor. That's one of the big things where when you release through the front, when you're laying on it, or if you're laying on the side, on your side on the ball, the back side of the rib cage is a common area of tension. And so people will find that area wants to kind of like hang on, and it kind of grips when you're working on that neutral spine, neutral pelvis position. So looking not only at the pelvis and how your breath is, but pay attention to the back, the lower part of your rib cage, and just notice if you feel a bit more ease back there after doing the ball release work. Yeah.
So something you can kind of play with, mostly with order of things.
Yeah. And then, the other thing that we wanted to kind of like chat a little bit about is the both of us, you know, we go to fitness classes, and often this class you're in, you have an abdominal section or a core work section where you're asked to do exercises. And one of the things I mentioned quite a bit in the video is noticing if your abdomen is poofing forward and being able to identify if you've lost that neutral position. And when your abdomen is poofing forward like that, what you're doing is if you continue to do that, you're just creating a stronger dysfunction because you're strengthening those pathways. So I know for myself when I go, and like what Missy just said, it's like some days are different. Some days I can do some exercises, and if I try to do that exercise the next day, I've got nothing. Like it's not working that day. So it's okay in those fitness classes to do your own thing when they're doing the abdominal exercises, because if you can't keep yourself safe, the exercises aren't worth it. And that's, you know, one of the things that we talked about. We want to create this lifelong health for you guys and get you guys to know your body well enough that you can understand what your body needs each day. So just know that just because they're instructing you on something, if you can't connect to it, just go back to the exercises that you were shown in the video this week, and just go back to the basics, because the basics are always going to be beneficial, even if you've been doing them for 5 years. So that's just kind of a message of encouragement. Maybe I think we get nervous to do something else in a fitness class. We think we're just supposed to push through, but I'm telling you, it's not worth it if you're not keeping yourself safe.
And you're setting yourself back for creating that new habit, because your body's learning this new thing, and then all of a sudden you just went and did yoga and went back to the old way just because you were nervous about asking for a modification or something like that.
Yeah.
It takes a little while. Now I feel like all my instructors know me as like, oh, she's just going to do her own thing.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, same. And you know, I think that that's why you two want to know who's instructing you, you know, like try to create a relationship with them, so that it's not like, you know, I try to like explain to them why I'm not doing certain things, but you know, really it's kind of none of their business. Like they don't need to know why you're modifying. Just say like, hey, I'm not ready for that exercise, or it's not feeling right, I'm just going to do this instead. Like they don't really need to know anything else. Just do what's best for you, because you're going to know that better than they are.
Yep. Love it.
Yeah.
We do have a question from Miss Aubrey.
Okay.
So she said, one question I had was, when I'm getting set up in supine position with neutral spine, I tend to be in an anterior tilt. And I know Ashley mentioned people shimmying their backs down, but then end up in a flat back. But it is different to physically rotate the pelvis to neutral, right? Sometimes when I am readjusting, I feel like it could be shimmying, but I am doing a shift.
Yeah. So one thing too to remember is when you're getting in position in supine with the neutral spine, neutral pelvis, a lot of people are so used to being in the posterior tilt with their back flat on the floor. So when they come into a neutral position, they feel like they've anterior tilted because they've gone out of their typical position, but they haven't actually anteriorly tilted. So you kind of want to be resting on like the mid part of your sacrum when you're on your back resting in a neutral position. So kind of like just practice, just roll your like forward and back until you feel like you're kind of right in the middle. Don't worry, like because you know, if you flatten your back and kind of rotate your pelvis back and then come into a neutral position, it's a pretty big movement. So yeah, you can just feel like you've gone too far when you actually haven't.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And maybe like it's hard to do in the mirror, but a video, you could kind of quickly record yourself and just get some feedback.
Yeah. And sometimes too, feeling that change of position, like standing in front of a mirror or like tall kneeling in front of a mirror and like rotating back as if you were flattening your back into the floor and then coming into neutral and then going past neutral and into your anterior tilt, then you can see how much further you have to tilt your pelvis to actually come into an anterior tilt. Sometimes that's a little bit more difficult to feel on your back. So if you're up, you can try that too. Yeah.
And then she said, my first experience in a seminar with Missy was awesome, but then Monday night was brutal. There's a lot of going on right now in terms of emotions and stress and change in diet. So I think all of that made this time less pleasant, but made me motivated to use it more than I have been. So Aubrey, it sounds like you're having some of that emotional release. And we, that kind of ties into what we were talking about in the beginning of like that feeling of being socked in the stomach. And it's because we hold a lot of emotions in our abdomen, and this is what we're going to dive into week 5. I think
week 6. Oh, no, you're right. Week 5.
Emotions.
Yeah. Week 5.
Yeah. So it's, just really briefly, when our brain is too full, our reservoir, our overflow goes into our organs, and we can store super old emotions in there, or it could be current. And so I'll have a lot of patients who roll on the Coregeous ball for the first time, and they're like, I just started bawling. So it is, Aubrey, just kind of love yourself during this time and let it come up, and even if it's anger or whatever it is, but we will dive deeper into emotions. So glad you're not discouraged from that.
Yeah.
Wanting to do that. So
yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
I think that's it. Thanks for hanging out, Aubrey.
Yeah, thanks. And of course, always message us with questions if you come up with them later this week, or, just want to, mention anything to us. You can post it in the group, or you can send us a private message, whatever works best for you, whatever you feel most comfortable with. But just know that we're here to answer questions as you go through this. So especially Aubrey, as you go through, and if any more of those emotions come up, like Missy said, just try to give yourself some grace, sit with the emotions. Don't think that you have to just hurry up and shove them out of your head. Just allow them to kind of have their process. And that's a way to really prevent them from just being hidden deeper. But we're going to get more into the emotions, and I can't wait.
All right, everyone, stay healthy. Hope you have a good rest of the week.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Talk to you soon.
Okay.